On to other news, and the South African political firebrand Julius Malema has promised to keep the pressure on President Jacob Zuma and challenge him whenever he is in parliament. This after one of the most dramatic confrontations ever seen inside the South African parliament. Opposition to Zuma's rule becomes more vocal and more violent. There was trouble on the streets of Cape Town last night as protesters fought running battles with police who resorted to using tear gas and stun grenades to keep rival ANC and EFF supporters apart. A huge security presence was mobilized to stop a repeat of last year when major clashes erupted on the streets of Cape Town. The street demonstrations followed chaotic scenes inside Parliament earlier when members of the radical leftist Economic Freedom Fighters Party prevented Zuma from speaking as he tried to deliver his State of the Nation address. An ugly running brawl broke out as guards exchanged punches with EFF members who were eventually forcibly ejected from the chamber. Shortly before the guards moved in, Julius Malema described Zuma as, quote, an incorrigible man and rotten to the core, close quote. Now, in Nigeria, the country has successfully gone to the bond markets with investor interest in the country's $1 billion Eurobond proving higher than expected. The West African nation's Eurobond was oversubscribed almost 8 times. Efforts over the past year to tap into the international markets had come up short, with the country falling into recession last year for the first time since 1991 due to the oil price crash. The government has announced plans to heavily borrow in a bid to overhaul the country back into to haul the country back into recovery. The bond issue will be used to finance its budget deficit and implement planned spending on infrastructure. Staying with Nigeria, and the government has announced it is taking over troubled airline Arik Air. The Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, obtained a court order to take over the country's largest carrier, saying it was, quote, too important to fail. Now, AMCON has said that its grounding will have caused a major catastrophe in the aviation sector and the Nigerian economy. Arik Air accounts for around 55% of domestic passenger traffic and operates a domestic, regional, and international flight network. To Italy now, and while Donald Trump's immigration ban faces legal obstacles in U.S. courts, Italy continues to save lives at sea and provide shelter to thousands of migrants, many of them from Africa. Last year, some 180,000 people landed in Italy, up 18% from 2015. A pilot project in Belluno in northeastern Italy encourages asylum seekers to carry out voluntary work to help get their lives back on track. Here's a special report from Richard Sargent.
Despite the snow in northeastern Italy, Paul and his friends are hard at work. After risking their lives to cross the Mediterranean, these migrants are cleaning up a site which will be turned into a cultural centre. From sub-Saharan Africa, Bangladesh or Pakistan, they have one thing in common: the good fortune to have been sent to Belluno. This town near Venice has decided to break with traditional migrant reception models and try something different.
I do voluntary work without being paid, but that's because otherwise we'd be at home doing nothing. We have no work, we'd simply eat, sleep, do nothing. So we decided together to help the town so it can move forwards.
This left-wing town at the foot of the Dolomites sits in the middle of anti-immigrant Northern League territory, but it's made migrant reception a priority. Instead of tent camps or centres, asylum seekers live in apartments. The idea is that giving them autonomy is key to speeding up integration, so migrants do their own shopping and cooking.
I don't feel like I'm anti-Trump, no. To put it simply, here in Belluno, we thought that what with the difficulties Italy and Europe are experiencing, we all need to invest a little to resolve a problem that is bigger than us.
It's the first day in the kitchen of this restaurant for Nazrul, who comes from Bangladesh. He's another Belluno volunteer, and he's off to a good start.
He knows how to handle a knife, and that's already something. Sometimes youngsters struggle even to chop up vegetables.
Take a young person who comes from abroad, who wants and needs to work, who wants to learn. He'll stay for a long time. He doesn't want to leave, and that's good.
The Belluno project may be extended to other towns in Italy. The government is expected to unveil a plan later this month that will focus in part on volunteer projects for migrants.
Time for another quick short break, but do stay with us. Plenty more ahead, including a chat with UNICEF Nigeria's Chief Communications Officer here in Nigeria. Stay with us. You are watching Arise News Now, live from Abuja, Nigeria. Back in a moment.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Then think Zenith, one of the biggest in Nigeria, with assets over $16 billion, listed among the 20 most influential brands in the world, and winner of Best Bank in Corporate Governance. The most customer-focused bank in Nigeria, a success built on 3 foundations, dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Our customers are focused, versatile, superheroes. Our customers are also the most important people in our world. So we listen, partner, and give solutions that make a difference in their world. At First Bank, we will always put you first.
You first. First Bank.
And welcome back to Arise News Now, live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I'm Jeff Koinange. Now, since 2009, Boko Haram has left more than 20,000 people dead. This led to the displacement of more than 2.5 million others in Nigeria's northern corridor. Many of those displaced live in camps for the internally displaced. Some of these camps, according to experts, have become, quote, dens for recruiting potential insurgents. Analysts are worried that more and more women and children are being recruited and turned into killers and suicide bombers. Now, here to talk more about this and other stories from the north of Nigeria is Dune Porter. She's UNICEF Nigeria's Chief of Communications, based right here in Abuja. Dune, good to see you.
Good morning.
So, let's go straight to Maiduguri, where you all mostly are. How bad is it? How challenging is it over there working?
The situation there is really terrible. It's a huge crisis, and it's one that's gone largely unreported, and most people in the world aren't aware of the crisis and the extent of the crisis. Yeah. Millions of people have been displaced. More than half of them are children, and children in any kind of situation like this are the most vulnerable. Yeah. In the three northeast states of Nigerian states alone, we estimate that 450,000 children this year will suffer from severe acute malnutrition. That makes them 9 times more likely to die from even an ordinary illness like malaria, which is very common.
June, tell me, why has the world forgotten this part of the world? What is it? The story's not sexy anymore, is that why?
I don't think it has ever been a big story internationally. There are a lot of other things going on in the world. And this is an area of the world that just has been a little bit forgotten, left unreported. Yeah. But it's vitally important that it is understood more widely. It's such a huge problem that no one government, no one organization can make a significant enough difference. We really need the world to mobilize around the humanitarian crisis in northeast Nigeria.
Yeah, what is security like over there? Because we hear stories every other week. A young lady mostly